After the launch of the new 2021 MU-X, there was a big kerfuffle about its tow capacity, gross vehicle mass, gross combined mass, and whether the MU-X could actually handle its 3,500 tow capacity. We did a full video on how it towed a 2,700 kilo Essential. Look it up or follow the link in the description below. It was as good as we expected, and we covered some of the weighty stuff in that video, but here we are going in depth on what the MU-X can tow and carry. Firstly, a recap on the key weights and what they mean. GVM is the gross vehicle mass. This is the maximum force the tyres of just the vehicle put into the ground, or the maximum the car can weigh when loaded. In the case of any four-wheel drive MU-X, that's 2,800 kilos. GCM is the gross combined mass. This is the maximum total downwards force of the car and any trailer behind it. For a four-wheel drive MU-X, that's 5,900 kilos. Payload is the capacity between the vehicle's curb weight with limited fluids and no load, and its gross vehicle mass. This one can be tricky as it's model specific and sometimes might be with a half load of fluids or not, which is why I suggest you weigh your car regularly and aim to keep it under its gross vehicle mass limit. Let's say there were 7 of me and I weigh 105 kilos. With the LST's 625 kilo payload, taking 6 metre rugby practice would be over the MU-X's capacity. Okay, but I'm not average. So for 5 80 kilo adults and a couple of 30 kilo kids, totaling around 460 kilos, it's perfectly fine for a sports run. But what if we tow? Yes, that 3,500 kilo tow capacity that caught our eye. Here is a Caravan we prepared earlier. Let's pretend it weighs 3,500 kilos. Hook that up to the LST at its curb weight and you're at a gross combined mass of 5,675 kilos, leaving only 225 kilos for the driver, passenger and gear. So that's 2 of me and a slab of beer. That's the reality of towing at the gross combined mass. But it's not just an issue for the MU-X. The same applies to almost everything from the Ford Everest, Toyota Fortuner and Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. Even everyone's favourite, the 200 series Land Cruiser, can have a payload as low as 693 kilos, though its GCM is a lot higher, so towing a big van doesn't affect it quite as much in some regards. But we haven't tackled ball weight. But before we do, we'll cover ATM and GTM. ATM is aggregate trailer mass, which is the force downwards of the trailer and its load unhitched from the vehicle. So this includes its ball weight. Gross trailer mass is the force downwards at the wheels of the trailer while it's hitched to the vehicle. So it doesn't include the ball weight, which for GTM is transferred to the car. And the ball weight, well, that's the downforce on the hitch, a pretty simple one. But what does ball weight have to do with payload? Ball weight counts as payload. So if you have 150 kilos of ball weight, in the case of your LST, the payload is now 475 kilos, or 4 of me and a few slabs of beer. Let's do a hypothetical at the heavy end of the scale. The LST has a curb weight of 2,175 kilos and a GCM of 5,900 kilos. Let's assume our van has an ATM of 3,500 kilos and it's fully loaded with a 10% ball weight. That means it has a GTM of 3,150 kilos or is passing on 350 kilos of ball weight to the LST. Remember, that counts as part of the payload. This means the weight of the LST before we load it with people and gear is already 2,525 kilos, leaving 275 kilos, but at the same time the GCM is 5,675 kilos, which leaves 225 kilos before its max of 5,900 kilos. That's less than 275 kilos worked out above, right? No wonder people get confused about this. This is why I recommend you measure your car and trailer separately and know what their weight is together. You should know your GCM and GVM as they are the ones that matter to your insurer and the authorities. Keep your gross vehicle mass under its max when towing and when not. And keep an eye on your gross combined mass at all times. Now, should cars like the LST tow at these limits? That's a question of opinion, which we should share over a couple of beers.